You cool cats and kittens. Today we get to talk about first-hand and second-hand accounts. What I want you to write down here is over off to the side. If you see my cursor, over here are the notes that we need to make sure that we have. This picture over here is just a visual. See how Mickey is pointing at himself? A first-hand account is all about me. What have I experienced? Why don't we draw a T-chart to help organize our minds? And a T-chart just looks like a T. On one side, we're going to put first-hand accounts. On the other side, we're going to put second-hand accounts. So first-hand accounts, they're called primary resources. Remember us talking about the Revolutionary War? It's people who've experienced things. So first-hand accounts are diaries, journals, autobiographies, also photos and videos. So anytime you take a picture and load it up to Instagram or you do a TikTok video, that is a primary source. You were there. It was recorded the moment it was happening. Those are all first-hand accounts. Second-hand accounts are secondary sources. So we're the second person. We weren't there to experience them. We heard about them or read about them. They're a description of an event based on research or told by someone who has not been there to see it. Things like textbooks, biographies, informational books. Do you remember all those ecosystem books we read about this beginning of the school year? Those were all second-hand accounts. None of us have gone to the rainforest, but did we learn about it? We sure did, because somebody else has gone through and done the research to help us understand what the rainforest is like, or the Arctic. Oh, so cold. One of the questions that we can ask ourselves when we're reading is, was the person telling the story present at the event? Is this someone's life that they're talking about themselves? Or is this someone explaining someone else's life or something else to help us understand better? Don't forget to write down that question. Ask yourself, was the person telling the account present at the event? If the answer is yes, first-hand. If the answer is no, second-hand accounts. So let's practice. I want to figure out if this is a first-hand account or a second-hand account. Letters from a Pilgrim Child, Autumn 1620. Dearest Aunt Constance, you wondered what life in a ship would be like. I can now tell you I would trade my bed for yours in the beat of a heart. I sleep on a damp bed in a tiny cabin with mother and father. We are all packed in like so much cargo below deck. We do not know many of the other passengers, yet we live nearly on top of each other. Few of us have ever been aboard a ship, and there is much seasickness. The stench is awful. I welcome the times when we are allowed to go on deck and empty our chamber pots and breathe fresh air. So remember me telling you needed to take notes? I now need to come back and I need to figure out first-hand or second-hand. Well, first-hand accounts are diaries, journals, and autobiographies or speeches. Second-hand accounts are textbooks, biographies, informational books. This is informational. I know that we're learning about what life is like on a ship. I think, though, because right here where it says Dear Aunt Constance, somebody is talking specifically about their aunt. I'm also seeing these really important words right here. I, you, we, us. When I'm talking about I and me, I'm talking about number one. So number one, person in my life, this is a first-hand account. Whoever wrote this letter really experienced life on this ship back in 1620. How crazy is that? Let's try one more together. Kevin Durant, The Brooklyn Nets small forward tested positive for COVID-19, along with 3 of his teammates. Only 1 of the 4 has shown symptoms, but it's not clear if it was Durant. Everyone be careful, take care of yourself, and quarantine, he told The Athletic. So, do we hear words like I and we and us in this passage? I don't see any of that. I do see down here that he said, everyone be careful, take care of yourself in quarantine. Kevin Durant really did say that because it then says he told The Atlantic. But because he's telling somebody else and he's not telling us and we're reading about it, we're hearing it for the second time. We did not experience Kevin Durant saying this to us. So that would mean that this is actually a secondhand account. All right. Your piece of paper, you're going to take it and you're going to flip it over. Flip it over. At the top, you're going to write the title, Indentured Servants. If you need to pause the video, pause the video. Let's read our instructions. On a piece of paper, use your notes. What language do we see? And is this a first-hand account or a second-hand account? How do you know? So we're going to do 3 things here. We're going to look for important language. We're going to decide, is this first-hand or second-hand account? And then we're going to explain ourselves. So we should see a little bit of writing from each one of these sections, correct? All right, I'll read if you follow along. Indentured servants. Early settlers in the American colonies had a lot of land, but not enough people to work on it. So in Jamestown, Virginia, in 1607, many men and women came to the colonies to live as indentured servants. In exchange for their passage overseas and room and board, that means they were allowed to live there and eat there, these men and women agreed to work for a period of between 4 and 7 years. Then they would be considered free. Until then, they had to fulfill their contracts by working very hard. Their lives were harsh and restricted. They weren't allowed to go out. People who tried to run away could be punished for having their contracts extended. That does not sound like a lot of fun. Adapted from a letter by Richard Firthorn, an indentured servant. So here we see that indentured servant again, okay? And it says a letter by Richard Firthorn. My brain is already thinking, I know what this is. Our instructions are the same. Instead of getting a new piece of paper, I'm just going to go down below and I'm going to write a little bit more. We are going to use our notes. We're going to look for language that we see. We're going to decide if this is first person or second person, and we're going to explain how we know. Let's read together. Virginia, 1623. Loving and kind father and mother. There is nothing here to comfort me. That does not sound nice. Since I left the ship, all I have eaten is watery oatmeal and peas. There is not enough meat or chicken to eat, and I haven't seen any deer around. Early in the morning until late at night, I work and work, awarded for my labor by given only watery oatmeal. 4 men have to share a small serving of bread, so it's little wonder that so many have fallen sick. Not only am I hungry, I hardly have any clothing. My coat was even stolen by a man who I believe sold it for food. Fortunately, Mr. Jackson in Jamestown is kind to me and has given me some fish. But I'm still miserable and hungry. I want nothing more than to go home. I do beg you, good Father, to release me from my great grief. Give my love to all my friends and family. Please, Father, send me for Send for me as soon as possible. Richard. That wasn't so hard, was it? Let's review. A first-hand account is when somebody has experienced it. We're talking about ourselves, me, I, what I saw, what I felt. That can be in a diary, in an autobiography, in speeches, or even when I take sweet pictures on Instagram, or do my TikTok videos. Also, secondhand accounts are when somebody else researches information or a topic. So when my mom watches my TikTok dance, or when you watch my TikTok dance and laugh at me, you have a secondhand account of what Miss Chambers did. Super easy. It also helps us with our reading comprehension. Thanks for a great lesson, guys. Make sure you take a picture today of your work, share it with us on Dojo or on Google Classrooms. Have a great day.